There's a truth people refuse to say out loud because it shatters the ego instantly. No one leaves suddenly. They leave quietly, invisibly, and long before the moment you finally notice the empty space where their love used to live. And if you're honest with yourself, you felt it. You felt the shift before the silence, but you convinced yourself it was nothing. Because denial feels safer than accepting that someone you trusted is beginning to erase you. The first sign is always small, not a fight, not a tear, just a micro difference in the way they look at you. A softness that used to be there isn't anymore. They listen, but they don't hear. They respond, but they don't connect. And that's when the air shifted. You pretend you don't notice, because noticing means losing control. So you latch onto logic, to reason, to excuses that sound heroic. They're just tired. It's just stress. It's temporary. But you're not trying to understand them. You're trying to protect yourself from the truth, because the truth threatens your identity. If love can fade without warning, then nothing is safe. Nothing is guaranteed. And maybe, just maybe, you weren't enough. Nobody wants to look in that mirror. But here's what no one tells you. The moment someone begins to detach isn't when the relationship ends. It's when the countdown begins. They stop arguing not because everything is fine, but because fighting for the bond doesn't feel worth it anymore. Anger disappears, affection disappears, and then presence disappears. The room felt different all of a sudden. They still sit next to you, they still sleep beside you, they still talk, but the connection is on life support, and neither of you knows how to resuscitate it without admitting how close it is to death. The messages used to overflow, now they're minimal. The tone used to be warm, now it's transactional. Every conversation becomes an exchange of information rather than emotion. You don't realize it, but you're already shifting from love to memory. Inside, you feel the panic, but outside you keep calm because pride has you chained. You'd rather suffer quietly than admit fear of loss. The silence changed before the truth did. Two internal thoughts haunt you. Maybe if I just stay strong, they'll come back. Maybe I'm the problem, and fixing myself will fix us. And yet you don't change to grow, you change to be chosen. You adjust yourself not to become better, but to become harder to abandon. There's a personal war in that. A war between who you are and who you think you have to be to earn love. You begin calculating your words, monitoring your tone, walking on eggshells without ever admitting you're walking on eggshells. You start losing yourself while trying to hold on to someone else. I felt colder, but sharper. The tension sits in your jaw. Your breathing is shallow. Your fingers don't move when you speak. Your body knows rejection is coming before your mind does. And that's the moment most people never notice. When you stop trying to be understood and start trying not to be abandoned. It's the emotional version of drowning quietly. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. You realize they're not asking you to fight for them. They don't even want you to chase them. They just want out, but without being the villain who leaves. So they detach emotionally until departure feels inevitable, not chosen. They want you to be the one who says it first because guilt is too heavy to carry. You can feel something inside you turning. You start replaying old conversations like reruns from a show where you once felt important. You try to locate the exact moment the erosion began. You convince yourself it must have been one sentence, one mistake, one flaw. But endings don't come from one moment. Endings come from accumulation. Every disappointed look, every unspoken expectation, every tiny heartbreak left unaddressed, every feeling swallowed instead of discussed. People don't leave because of a hurricane. They leave because of erosion. And just when you think the moment is done, it isn't. Because the real pain comes later. Not when they leave, but when you realize they had already left while you were still trying to build a future. You'll replay this part without meaning to. The memory where they looked at you, but not with love, with obligation. That's the moment your chest tightens every time you remember it. That's the moment you lose sleep over. That's the moment that teaches you what loss really feels like. You know this is you. Notice how your mind is scanning old relationships right now. Notice how your breathing feels heavier, remembering the moment someone changed and you stayed the same. Notice how your body remembers what your memory tried to bury. Ignore this and time will choose for you. You'll repeat the same cycle with someone new. Thinking attachment equals security. Thinking love is guaranteed once given. Thinking loyalty prevents distance. But distance isn't fear of commitment. Distance is emotional exhaustion. Now you see what most people hide from. All this time you blamed the ending on the exit, without realizing the exit was simply the final step in a long process of detachment. Love doesn't disappear overnight. People disappear long before their bodies walk away. And here's the quiet truth most never accept. The day they stop complaining is the day they stop caring. The day they stop fighting is the day they stop hoping. The day they become calm is the day they're already gone. If even one part of this felt like your life, you and I are built from the same scars. There's a moment after someone leaves that no one warns you about. Not the goodbye, not the silence. It's the instant your body finally realizes there's no one left to fight for. Everything goes quiet, but not in a peaceful way, in the way a building feels after it collapses. Nothing moves, but everything hurts. You don't cry first, you don't scream first, you don't break things first. You just sit there, staring at nothing, like your mind is buffering because reality is too heavy to download. You think about texting them, calling them, begging them, not for love, but for clarity, for a reason, for a sentence that makes the pain logical. But you know you won't get it. You know they already gave you their answer in silence long before they walked away. This is where most people collapse mentally, not because the person left, but because you finally have to face the truth you kept avoiding. You lost them while trying to pretend you didn't, and that's when the air shifted. You start replaying every memory like punishment. You remember the effort, the loyalty, the warmth, and then the withdrawal, the distance, the emotional numbness. It becomes a loop you can't pause. You keep trying to find the exact moment everything began to crumble because you believe if you locate the origin, you can undo the ending. It gnaws at you. What did I miss? What could I have done? Why wasn't I enough? But beneath those questions is the darker one you don't say out loud because it terrifies you. If someone can detach from me once, is anyone ever really mine? The room felt different all of a sudden. You stop eating right. Sleep becomes a rumor. Music feels like trespassing on feelings you can't tolerate. Your own reflection feels unfamiliar, like you're looking at the ghost of someone who used to be wanted. You don't rage, you freeze, you don't move, you exist. Just enough to feel the pain, not enough to escape it. Every night becomes a negotiation with yourself. If you think about them for just a few minutes, maybe the ache will ease. But every memory cuts deeper instead of healing. You start avoiding the places you shared, the routines you built, the habits that hold their fingerprints. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system can't take another reminder of who you used to be. Two internal truths haunt you. Maybe I'll never feel that safe again. Maybe I'll never be chosen again. The silence changed before the truth did. Nobody admits this publicly. The first stage after someone leaves isn't growth. It's self-destruction disguised as survival. You distract yourself. You bury yourself in work. You joke around like nothing happened. You make yourself so busy that your mind doesn't have a chance to wander into the place where the grief lives. But the body keeps score. Every distraction eventually collapses under its own weight, and then it hits. The delayed breakdown. Random, violent, unscheduled. It could be triggered by a scent, a phrase, a song, a street, a memory you didn't grant permission to return. You fall apart not because you're weak, but because you held too much for too long. You realize that loneliness isn't being alone. Loneliness is remembering what intimacy felt like. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. You don't miss them, not really. You miss the version of yourself that existed when you felt chosen. You miss the safety of being wanted. You miss the illusion of permanence. What hurts isn't the person. What hurts is the identity you lost with them. And that realization is the beginning of the shift. The collapse isn't the end. It's the reset. You could feel something inside you turning. You stop waiting for them to return, not because you forgive and not because you healed, but because your nervous system gets tired of bleeding. The body eventually picks survival over memory. You start looking at old pictures and feel nothing. You see their name and feel pressure in your chest, but not panic. You hear their voice in your mind and it sounds distant, like a dream dissolving after waking up. This is where the reconstruction begins. It doesn't start with motivation. It starts with anger. Silent anger, not at them, but at yourself. For how much of yourself you sacrificed, twisted, softened, reshaped just to avoid abandonment. You realize you didn't lose them. You lost yourself trying to keep them. You start reclaiming territory internally. You speak less, but mean more. You tolerate less, but feel more. You become colder externally, but warmer toward yourself. The emotional contradiction settles in. I care less about others, but I understand myself more. Every small improvement becomes a brick in the new version of you. Every boundary becomes armor. Every standard becomes a gate. People around you think you're getting harder. They're wrong. You're getting accurate. And just when you think the moment is done, it isn't. Because eventually someone new appears. Someone who offers attention, connection, affection, naturally, genuinely. And you feel fear instead of excitement. A trauma response disguised as intuition. The room holds its breath. You're terrified of being replaced again. Terrified of loving harder than you're loved. Terrified of giving someone the blueprint to break you. So you hesitate. You overthink. You withdraw. You consider leaving before they ever get the chance to detach the way someone once detached from you. But here's the turning point most people never reach. Leaving first doesn't protect you. Avoiding love doesn't heal you. Guarding your heart doesn't rebuild it. Discipline does. The metaphor becomes clear. A heart is a battlefield, and healing isn't the truce. It's learning to fight smarter. The silence changed before the truth did. You start choosing differently, not out of fear, out of self-respect. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop proving. You stop becoming what someone wants and start becoming who you are. Love becomes a privilege, not a dependency. Attention becomes currency, not oxygen. Presence becomes a standard, not a reward. You recover not by being loved again, but by loving yourself in a way that makes abandonment powerless. You'll replay this part without meaning to. The moment you look in the mirror and realize you're no longer trying to be someone's reason to stay, you're building a life they would never want to leave. Notice how your chest loosened a little. Notice how your mind calmed without asking permission. Notice how your breathing slowed when you imagined choosing yourself. If even one part of this felt like your life, you and I are built from the same scars. Picture yourself standing in that quiet room, not waiting for someone to come back, but choosing the version of you that doesn't disappear when someone leaves. No comment required, just a nod, the kind men give when they recognize each other's war.